record this. Put that here. So I put the program, well, thank you all for coming and coming back, maybe coming back. Going to try to do this in about half an hour today. We're here in Scottsdale. It's really beautiful outside. And it's nice inside too. With some music. I'm going to start with some Joplin, The Cascades, which he wrote for the Chicago World's Fair, supposedly, inspired by the Cascades exhibit, which was one of the big things that year. You enjoyed that one. It was a big hit in 1902, yes. Anyway, Joplin has always been a big favorite of mine since I was a little kid, and I learned most of them. I hope you all decide to play Joplin. My opinion is he was really one of the greatest American composers, and I think inarguably one of the most important American composers. I'm going to sneeze. I've never sneezed in a performance before, but I'm going to sneeze. I'm not going to sneeze. Okay, I stopped. I will not sneeze. Anyway, that one was the Cascades. The next one, in some ways, I think is my favorite of his rags, and it's not really a rag. It's more of a habanera. It's called Solace, Mexican Serenade. The wall didn't keep this one out. But I really like this one because it's not just a dance, but I think that through ragtime, he tells a story. You can see, I know that he's not inspired by the picture, but I think the artwork on the rags is, maybe it's just coincidental, but I love this picture. This was the title page, or the cover page. And if you look closely, you'll see it's actually two women, the one standing up and then the other one right here. And this idea of solace, of giving solace or consolation, to me it inspires kind of a drama that might be happening where the sad woman is telling her story about how she met someone who broke her heart. And then the solace happens in the second half, where the woman who's consoling her might be saying, you know, things are going to get better, and I also had that experience. And I think that it's rare in ragtime for a composer to be telling a story. Usually it's just this kind of dance and a mood, and that's about where it stops. So here's Solace by Joplin. it's such a great piece. One of the best pieces written by an American composer. How about that? So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it too. I love playing that one too. I'm going to switch to some classical right now, but in a lot of ways, it's not really changing a lot of gears. I'm going to play a Mozart Sonata, last movement from his Sonata in B flat, 333. And the reason I don't think it's much of a change of gears, if you think about Mozart, he was very famous as an opera composer, and I think what characterizes his style and his music is how everything, in a way, becomes a character. The melodies become a character, the combinations of melodies become a drama, and I think this movement is very typical of that. It's a sonata, it's a last movement. In those days, everybody would know that it's a rondo, and what that means is a type of a structure, a thematic structure, A, B, A, C, A, B, A, abacaba, as I usually say. And this adheres to that structure as well. What really appeals to me about this movement is that there's so much contrast between the characters, and I think even within characters there are different moods, so as if he's showing a person with different moods, but then he's also showing different people. And I played this in high school, and I remember making up a story that went along with it, and I'm not going to share the story. I think everybody needs to come up with their own individual stories as they listen to pieces and as they study pieces and as they perform them. I think it gives the music a certain life. Another thing that really appeals to me that's unusual about this movement is that there's a cadenza at the end where things stop and the music is freer and quasi-improvisatory. To me, the cadenzas are really that moment where the individual, who is the center of the story, stops and thinks about what's going on and kind of states an opinion and thinks about it and changes opinion and moves around. And to me, it's just so real and personal and defies the idea that classical music is written out and it's set and there's a formula. That really there's something very free and human about this, even music from this particular period. So this is Mozart Sonata in B flat, Scurlock 333, the last movement, Allegretto, grazioso. Let's see if I can play this. It's been 40 years. from the past, maybe 1783. We don't know exactly when it was written. He didn't write it down. We know it was published in 1784. For a long time, scholars thought that he wrote it in 1779, but anyway, that's all boring. But I did want to point out one thing. As I was practicing, I kept struggling with that first measure because harmonically, it's really weird. It sounds like it's in B flat, and then on the last note, it goes to G minor. And I hear the harmony change on that note. And it always was a challenge. But then I realized yesterday that in the second phrase, when it repeats, he goes. So really, in the beginning, it's. Anyway, just something that I was thinking about harmonically. Now, I've been so inspired by all of these great live streams and exploring on YouTube and seeing everybody that's doing stuff, and I especially admire how the composers and rock musicians like my sister get to play new music and music of their own. I thought, well, you know, why not ask for compositions from friends, and maybe I can learn some of them and play them. So I put out word a couple of days ago, and I got a bunch of really nice pieces. So today, because I really didn't have a whole lot of time to learn stuff, I'm going to play a short piece by a colleague of mine from Juilliard, Major Scurlock, and he wrote some etudes, so I'm going to play an etude. This is my first etude ever performing an etude. I've never performed etudes. And this is a very short one that's inspired by Chopin's etudes, Opus 10, number 7, I think, is the set. So let's see. This is by Major Scurlock, and you can find him on Facebook, and I'm sure you can find him sheltering in his apartment in New York. That's a good one, huh? I like it. Let's do it again. What do you say? Let's do it again. I think we should do it again. I'm going to do it again. He'll have 2 takes. This is Untitled Etude by Major Scurlock. And make sure to find him on Facebook and congratulate him. Give you 2 shots at it. How about that? So, thank you, Major, for sending that to me. Thank you, all the composers. I'm going to be practicing quite a bit, as much as my family allows, and I have to thank them because they're all up in their bedrooms right now, trying very hard not to make any noise. and very hungry because this is their lunchtime. So, we're going to go back to Joplin. We've got two more pieces. I'm going to play the Gladiolus Rag. This was one of his later rags, and I just love it. I think it's so beautiful and nostalgic, Chopin-esque in a way. I also remember it was my cousin Ann Sikora's favorite ragtime. I used to go over to her house and supposedly to play with my cousins. I think I ended up sitting at the piano and playing more than I played with them. I'm sorry, Danny. Anyway, the Gladiolus Rag. like that one. It has a great arc to it, and it's, you know, it's very hopeful in the end, I find. This last piece I'm going to play is a request from a friend. I actually arranged this for her wedding. Margaret, I don't know if Margaret's on right now, but she'll watch it later if she's not. And I thought it would be nice to end with this. This is Elgar's Nimrod from the Enigma variations. For those of you who don't know, I'll just say very quickly, the Enigma variations were written by English composer Edward Elgar, and each variation is a depiction of a friend of his. And the Enigma part, it turns out Elgar was a kind of an amateur cryptologist, and he loved doing puzzles and math puzzles and writing in code for his friends and all this kind of stuff. And this, in a way, is one of those puzzles for him. So he embedded lots of codes and enigmas, and there's definitely not just one enigma. One enigma that was very clear is that he wrote initials or nicknames on each of the movements, and the puzzle was to figure out who these people were. Another enigma was, what is the theme? And really, there are other enigmas that there are underlying themes and quotations throughout this piece. So Nimrod, in this case, was his publisher, Augustus Jaeger, who worked for Novella. Now, Jaeger in German means hunter, and Nimrod was the great hunter, so he called him Nimrod. And this movement is very touching. It's played all the time, especially in England and in British countries, as a piece of consolation, as a piece of hope, as a piece of kind of holding your chin up and moving forward optimistically. Supposedly there's a story that Elgar was really depressed and wanted to quit composing. And Jaeger came over to Elgar's house and consoled him and said, look, you have to do it. You have to compose. And it was this conversation that got Elgar through his bout of depression and allowed him to continue composing all the great music that he did. So whether this movement is a depiction of that story, there's some anecdotes that say that it is. It may be. In any case, it's a really beautiful piece, and this is an arrangement done by the composer. Sorry, I'm playing this on my. I hope it didn't stop. No. This is an arrangement by the composer, Edward Elgar, and after that we'll be done. And oh, I should say, we're starting. I know that it's great that we're all here, and I'm so glad you're here, and that's really the most important thing. Please remember, though, that musicians, as we all are almost completely out of work. So if it's possible, we would welcome support. If not, that's great. Just enjoy the music. I'm glad we've made a bit of a community online to listen as much as we can. Here's Edward Elgar's Nimrod. Okay. Thank you all for coming. We'll have another one, I'm sure, soon, I hope. We'll see when, maybe in a couple days, maybe next week. Depends on when my family allows me. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon. Stay safe, wash your hands, keep your distance.